Hey guys, welcome back to Freedom Homestead and welcome to the Freedom Homestead Kitchen. I'm Tangi and today I am beginning the process of preparing some food to can. One of the things I'm going to be doing, I've already made a video on, and that is farmer soup. I will put a link in the description box below for you to find that recipe. So making chicken soup, I am basically preparing like I would chicken noodle soup, but we're not going to be adding the noodles. Canning noodles, rice, anything like that is unsafe. So what you do is you make your chicken soup, you can it, and then if you want noodles, if you want rice, if you want dumplings or whatever, you actually add that when you're heating up the soup to eat. So let me show you what I've already got going on back here. Okay, so what I already have going on is in my big stock pot, I have about 5 pounds of chicken leg quarters. Now these leg quarters I've actually had in my freezer for such a time as this. And I thawed it out just enough to get the leg quarters broken apart so I can fit them in my pot. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna season the water because I'm actually gonna be using some of this broth in the soup that we're gonna prepare and can later. So I don't have anything else in here, but I am going to season with some pink Himalayan sea salt. Season it pretty well. I'm gonna add a few peppercorns, maybe about a tablespoon. I'm gonna add a few bay leaves. I would say about four bay leaves. One herb that you definitely do not want to use is sage. Sage becomes more bitter during the canning process, so steer clear of that. Okay, so going through my freezer, here are some things that I found, and this is kind of a funny story. This is half an onion. And actually what happened was I was putting this up thinking that I was putting it in the refrigerator, and I put it in the freezer, and I thought, well, that's fine. I'll just leave it, and when I make some stock or something, I'll just put that in there. So this is a whole half of an onion. Right in. I also have a chicken neck. This is from one of the last whole chickens that I purchased. I saved the neck and I put it in the freezer. Makes excellent broth. And I also have a bunch of celery ends. This is from when I had some celery and I just cut the ends off because we weren't going to eat them. And I save it. I'm not going to use all of this. I'm just going to put a couple of big handfuls in here. Okay. These are baby carrots that I do have some. I do have some organic carrots that I'm going to actually chop up and put in with the soup. Okay, I'm going to put one more onion in our stock. Okay, skins and all. Now I'm just going to kind of stir this around. Okay. Oh, it smells so good. Okay, so we're going to let this boil until the chicken is done. And then we may even just let it kind of slow simmer and let that broth get good and flavorful. The recipe that I am going to be working from is from the Amish Canning Cookbook. It's on page 181 and it is chicken soup. Again, we're not adding noodles, we're not adding rice, we're not adding any sort of starchy component. You could put potatoes in here if you wanted to, but I'm not gonna do that. It calls for 5 quarts of chicken broth or stock. I'm gonna use what I can from what I'm making here, but I also have some organic chicken broth in the cabinet. 3 cups of diced cooked chicken. This will not be diced. Obviously, this is going to be shredded, which is just as good. Very excited about it. 1.5 cups of celery diced, 1.5 cups of carrots diced, 1 cup of onion diced, and salt and pepper to taste. And back here I have some organic celery, and I have some organic carrots that I purchased specifically for this canning project. This recipe should make about 6 quarts. So that is 6 quarts of food that I'm gonna have shelf stable. And the reason why I love canning soup is I love having meals that are pretty much heat and go. Whether it's a busy night, whether I'm sick or whatever, my son, the youngest one in our family, of course he's a good cook anyway, but he can just pop the top, you know, pour the soup in there, make a grilled cheese, add some noodles, whatever, and then dinner's ready. And it's a home cooked meal that I know is good quality. I know what's in it, and yeah, so I'm really excited to be making this chicken soup. This already smells so good. Okay guys, so my stock has been boiling for quite a while. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off. I'm not making bone broth, I'm just making soup broth. So I'm turning the heat off, and I'm just gonna let this hang out because really the longer it sits, the better it tastes. But yeah, we're just gonna turn it off. I'm gonna take the chicken out, let it cool until I can handle it, and then take the bones off. Since it's already almost 3:30, I am probably going to finish this up tomorrow. So what I'll do is I will take the chicken off the bone and I will strain the broth, and then tomorrow we will get everything in the jars and we'll get it canned up. Okay, so I have pulled all the meat off the bones, and that is how much I got. Here is the broth. And I'm gonna put that in the refrigerator, and I'm gonna be able to, well, I'm gonna strain it first, and then I'm gonna skim the fat off of it in the morning. Hey guys, so I wanted to show you really quick. I got the meat picked off the bone, and it's in the refrigerator waiting for tomorrow. And I strained my beautiful broth, look at that, gorgeous, and put them into jars. I got a gallon and a pint. I got a gallon and a pint of broth, and you can see the fat is already starting to rise to the top. So these are going to go in the refrigerator overnight, and in the morning before I heat this back up, I'm just going to skim the fat off of the broth. Okay guys, it is the next day, and I'm actually starting a whole lot later than I was planning to, but that's how it goes sometimes. But here is my beautiful broth from yesterday. As you can see, I have this beautiful layer of chicken fat. I know a lot of people save that and use it, but I'm going to skim it off and give it to the dogs. And then here is the meat. I need 3 cups of chicken meat. I have no idea how many cups are in here, but I'm guessing it's gonna be really, really close to 3. And then I also have my organic celery and carrots. I'm gonna grab some onions, and we're gonna get to cooking. So let's go. So as I mentioned, I'm going to begin the whole thing by skimming the fat off of the chicken broth, and I'm putting it into a bowl, and I pour it over my dog's dog food, and now they love me forever. Since my recipe calls for 5 quarts of chicken broth and I don't have 5 quarts, what I'm doing here, and I would have probably done it anyway, is I'm just putting a little bit of water in each jar and shaking it up and then adding it into the broth. The recipe called for 3 cups of diced chicken, and I wasn't sure how much I would have. I actually ended up having about 4 cups of shredded chicken, and you see that I was measuring it out. I actually ended up adding all of the chicken into the pot. Okay, since I am planning on doing more, a different kind of soup tomorrow, I'm just gonna go ahead and wash all of this and chop all of it at once. This will go in compost. This will go in the freezer for stock. Okay, so we've got all of our ingredients in our soup pot. So we're gonna bring this up to a boil, and then when it gets up to a boil, then we are going to reduce the heat and let it simmer for 30 minutes. Okay guys, so my soup is done. I've got my jars selected, checked, cleaned. They're on standby. I've got my lids heating up. Now, you don't have to do that, but it makes me feel warm and cozy to do that. I've got my pressure canner on the eye. The water is heating up. I've got 3 inches of water. Check your manufacturer's instructions. I'm gonna link a video in the description box below. It's my my canning beans video, and in the beginning of it I go through the basics of checking your jars, checking your canner, making sure that everything is in good and working order. And so yeah, if you are new to canning, that would be a good one for you to check out before you attempt something like this. And I'm gonna go ahead and start filling my jars. You want it to be soupy. It is meant for you to add noodles or rice or something whenever you heat it up. So this is gonna be a very brothy soup. Okay, so now that I've got my canner loaded, I'm gonna turn up the heat. So I had to add a box of chicken broth. Didn't even occur to me that I would need that much, or I would have mixed it all together, but that's okay. Okay, so now we're gonna be looking for a steady stream of steam to come out of the valve. And once the steady stream begins, we will start the timer for 10 minutes. Okay, so now we wait. Okay, so we've had a pretty healthy stream of steam going. You can see my timer counting down in the back. You get that steam going for 10 minutes. So we're almost down to the 10-minute mark, and then I'm gonna put my weight over top of the valve. So I just put my weight on and the valve just stuck straight up. So I'm gonna back the heat down a little bit more so it's not getting too crazy hot and the pressure doesn't rise too far. So we're just gonna keep an eye on it and see how it does. Guys, my timer just went off, so I'm gonna turn this off and I'm gonna push this to the back, and then we're gonna let this pressure come down till the meter reads all the way to the 0. Okay guys, so I've let the pressure come down completely. The gauge is at 0 and the valve in the back has gone down. So now I'm gonna gently open this. Always remember to open it away from your face. You don't want it to get burned by the steam. Okay. Ooh. How are we looking in here? Looks pretty good. Okay, so here are my jars. You can see they're still boiling and they've been out of the canner now for an hour or so it seems. But yeah, so as of right now, they have all sealed. You can tell that the broth has actually gotten kind of an orangey tint, which is normal. I got some stuff that has floated to the top, some of it's still down at the bottom. And you can also see that I've got a lot of cloudiness. That's just the mineral water, or the minerals in my water. But everything looks good. So we're gonna come back in the morning, we're gonna check the seals, and we're gonna wash the jars and get them on the shelf. Good morning, friends. It is the next day, and I have checked all the seals. I removed the rings. How I check the seals is first I press on it and make sure it's not flimsy at the top, and then I also like, for good measure, just to hold it by the lid. Emily, hold it by the lid, make sure it's on there good and secure. But as you can see, that broth, it really richens up. It almost takes on an orangey tint. It's fantastic. All of them sealed, and then I washed my jars and I still have a little bit of some cloudiness, and that's just from the minerals in our water, which I can take that off with white vinegar. It's no big deal. So all I have left to do is to label them and put them in the pantry. I hope you guys enjoyed this canning video, and if you look in the description box below, I will have the recipe for this chicken soup. And that's all I've got for you guys today. Until next time.